The Economic Survey 2026 reports that India is entering its fourth year in a row as the world's fastest-growing major economy, with a projected GDP growth of 7.4%. Nearly half of those imports flow through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passage that is now an active conflict zone. The threat extends to natural gas as well. The partial destruction of Qatar's LNG facility has severed a vital supply line for liquefied natural gas, creating a secondary energy shortage alongside the oil crisis. S&P Global classifies this as the largest energy shock on record. Unlike previous crises, this event simultaneously constrains both oil and gas supplies, while forcing a total realignment of global trade routes. The impact hit India immediately. The price of the Indian crude basket actually rose faster than global Brent crude because of India's heavy reliance on Middle Eastern sour grades that are now trapped behind the conflict line. To avoid the risk of ship seizures or strikes, major shipping companies have abandoned the Red Sea and the Strait of Hormuz entirely. This has forced tankers into a massive detour around the Cape of Good Hope. The added weeks of transit time and the scarcity of available tankers have triggered a 75% surge in freight costs. This logistical nightmare, thousands of miles away, translates into higher landing prices for raw materials, pushing imported inflation directly into the Indian domestic market. While oil prices get the most attention, the shortage of imported LNG and LPG is a more direct threat to domestic manufacturing operations. The fertilizer industry is the most exposed. It relies on a steady flow of natural gas as its primary production input. Without that gas, urea production stalls. This creates a chain reaction. A lack of fertilizer threatens upcoming crop yields, which jeopardizes both food security and rural incomes. To prevent this energy shock from stalling the entire economy, the Indian government launched a rapid policy response designed to shield the domestic market. First, they reorganized the national crude basket, moving aggressively to source alternative oil from Russia and the U.S. to bypass the West Asian disruptions. They also activated physical reserves. India maintains a 60-day stock cover in its strategic petroleum reserves, providing a short-term buffer against total supply failure. On March 9th, an emergency order rationed natural gas, prioritizing city gas and fertilizers over other industries. Finally, the government froze retail fuel prices, absorbing the high import costs to prevent spikes in consumer transportation. These buffers are highly effective at absorbing the initial impact, but they come at a significant fiscal cost. The government is essentially paying to keep the shock from reaching the average citizen. If the conflict drags on beyond the next few months, India's emergency buffers will begin to deplete, leading to the alternate case scenario. Prolonged energy costs would systematically erode profit margins. As shown here, sectors like ceramics and airlines would be pushed into a negative credit outlook as their operating costs spiral. In this scenario, GDP growth could drop as low as 6.5%, while the current account deficit widens as the cost of basic energy imports continues to climb. This stress test reveals that while India can survive a sudden energy blast, the broader economy remains highly exposed to prolonged geopolitical instability. These vulnerabilities are why the Economic Survey 2026 advocates for a transition toward disciplined Swadeshi. True defense requires a total overhaul of the internal energy mix and a deeper integration into diverse global value chains that don't rely on a single chokepoint. Achieving strategic indispensability is the mechanism required to protect India's 7.4% growth trajectory from future external shocks.